everybody, welcome to Hammerdown Motorsports. My name is Steve Fast and I hope you guys are having an amazing day today. It is a little bit cool out here in Pennsylvania, but we did see a little bit of sunlight on the walk down to the shop. So first things first, we did have a little bit of snow recently and we were able to have fun with the snowmobile, which was an amazing time. I didn't really film any of that because mostly it was at night and it was pretty much like sleeting and snowing that entire time, and just basically went out there and had a good time with it. So it's time, we're gonna put the sled in the shop. Over here, I have some furniture movers, which work really good and a pretty inexpensive way to be able to put the skis on some smaller ones and the track on the rear, especially when you have a studded track, because we don't want to be messing up all this new concrete. So, let's open up the door here. We still have a rather large pile of snow in front of the door. But this is my 2002 MXZ600. It is a little bit dirty. I kind of just wiped off the headlights and it's still a little bit dirty from storage all summer long. I'd really like to pressure wash it, make it look pretty, but we might be able to just hit it with some glass cleaner just to get most of this dirt off of it. And we're gonna find a little spot for it for now. Okay, I gotta say, I am pretty happy that it fired up in only 2 pulls. And there we go, nicely out of the way. So now that I've been out for my first snowmobile ride of the season, it's got me thinking Christmas is right around the corner, and what better way to celebrate by putting a promo code for HammerdownMotorsportsUSA.com. If you guys want to use the promo code, it is active as of today. It is SHOP, SHOP10. Just put that in when you make your order. Anything over $10 is going to be 10% off. So if you want to hook yourself up with any of the Hammerdown merch and help support the channel, HammerdownMotorsportsUSA.com. So now that I've got my chore of the day done, I got the snowmobile inside and out of the weather, we could do a little shop update here. We got toolboxes kind of moved in different places than what they were before. Got my Mobile One banner up here, just trying to make this place more kind of the shop atmosphere that I'm looking for. I have the soft boxes here, so when we do the builds, we can get some nice light on everything so you guys can see what we're doing, which is going to make things a lot better when it comes out on video. We do have the Reno over here. I was just in here one night and I decided to pull the headlights because it needed to be done anyways. They need to be polished because they're pretty hazy. And a lot of times when people do that, they end up going over and kind of messing up the paint. And you can just put tape around or whatever, but it was easier just to pull them because I had to change the bulbs in them anyway. And to do that, you got to remove the grill, so we pulled that as well. And we will be starting this one very, very soon. But on today's video, we are going to be doing the engine removal and torque converter install on the Coleman Minibike. So we have done some modifications on the Minibike already. We did install a nitrous kit, which I have kind of disconnected at the moment because I had to change the air intake. I did have a different air intake on this one earlier. So basically I just have the hose hanging here like this. We're gonna have to make a hole and put a little barb fitting and be able to put it into the intake like that. And we have our button right up here, and I used a hose clamp to hold it on. And also I removed the little tank storage and the fenders on the rear and the front, and I painted them black because they were a camo before and I really wasn't into that. I kind of want to make this more look like a Harley or a old school like military bike, something like that. I did put the tail light on here with the vintage PA plate and kind of the plate hanger and all that kind of good stuff. I will put all the links for this kind of stuff in the description. I bought all this stuff on Amazon. And our parts, as far as performance go, we have the Go Power Sports air intake system with the power jet and emulsion tube. And I also put their header pipe on, which they did send me a new one with a muffler. So we're gonna see the before and after with just the straight pipe header versus the muffler system. But the biggest mod you're going to want to do to one of these bikes when you get it, especially if you're an adult riding this, is to remove the chain drive clutch assembly, because this is very limiting to this bike. It doesn't allow a lot of torque to be transferred, and it's kind of primitive. It's just basically a flyweight clutch type system, and if you are fairly heavy, you can actually make this thing slip. I don't know if it's slipped for me at all. It seems to grab pretty good, but all in all, everybody that I've ever heard that put a torque converter system on one of these bikes has noticed big torque improvements, and I can't wait to try it out. So just like that, I got the bike onto the bench. This is going to give us a whole lot better vantage point than trying to struggle working on this thing on the ground. This is kind of like having it up on a motorcycle lift. And the beauty about these bikes, they don't really weigh a whole lot. If you get the front tire up onto like the back of a truck bed or something like that, you can grab the frame and just kind of manhandle it up yourself. Really not a big deal to move these things around. They are fairly light. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna remove this cover and expose our chain drive. So on mine, I have these clips already removed because I've had this off a few times, and it really doesn't fall off when it's sitting there without the little safety retainer clips, so I left them off. But if you do have a brand new bike, you're gonna have to remove those first, and basically this thing will just kind of pop off these metal tabs. And there it is, the nice greasy chain drive setup. As you can see on mine, I've got a little bit of rust, so we've had some probably around 250 pound people riding this bike, and it's probably got a little hot along the way, but it's a good time to get rid of this old system and get our brand new torque converter system installed. One thing I found about removing the master link that made life a little easier, especially if your chain is a little bit loose like mine is, I moved it over to the sprocket, and then you're not going to have it moving back and forth as you're trying to remove it. All I used was a hammer and a small chisel. Just kind of tapped on the very end of it, and it was able to get the piece to remove. Now be sure to put these in a safe place so you don't lose the little pieces, and you'll be good to go to put it back together. So next up, I'm going to be removing the header pipe just so we can make room, because this one does sit fairly close to the frame, and just to be able to get this engine out of here, we're going to have to remove this. Pretty simple, 2 bolts, we'll get that out of the way. And then I'm going to tackle the wiring on the engine, and this thing should be pretty well ready to come out. Okay, we got the header pipe off. It's just 2 nuts, 2 washers to remove there. I have some of the wiring started to be removed here. I have the ground, which just goes to a stud over here on the bottom of the tank, and there's just a little quick connect inside on this black wire, which then goes to this wire on the engine, so that just pulls apart and you're good to go. And I believe from the factory for the headlight there was a quick connect here, but I had to go overboard and I took that all off and I soldered all the wires, not thinking that I'm going to be pulling this engine out and having to remove that. So what I'm going to be doing now is pulling the tape off and undoing some of the work that I had done. And what I think I might be doing is putting a weatherproof quick connect in case I ever have to pull this engine out. I won't have to worry about removing all that again. So next we're going to be removing the mounting bolts for the engine. The top where the nut is on the bolt is a 13 millimeter, and on the bottom is a 10 millimeter. So what you can do, you can hold the top with a wrench, or you can get a socket on the bottom, or whichever way is easiest for you to remove these, but those are the sizes that you're going to need. So if you're doing this at home and all you have is basics, hand tools and whatnot, you can just use a wrench on the top and a wrench on the bottom to get these out. For me, I use my Milwaukee 1/2-inch impact. I have it reduced down to 3/8 of an inch, and there's plenty of room to get the impact underneath the bike just at the regular resting height. And I was able to get all 4 of the bolts out very quickly. And these tools are very, very nice. They're high quality. Milwaukee, this is definitely not a sponsored ad. I bought everything I've ever gotten from them. But I do have a fairly good set of Milwaukee cordless stuff in my truck, and I use them all the time, and they work great. So now that we do have our 4 bolts for the engine removed, we just have to remove the one little bolt in the back here that goes for the jack shaft on this little bracket, which is actually going to be removed. And we'll get that out and we can just pull this engine out of the frame. So now that the engine bolts and the jack shaft bolts are removed, I got the engine kind of sitting halfway out of the bike here because we have to remove the throttle cable, which is right up here on the top. And just moving this engine aside like this gives you a little bit extra room, just so you don't have to try to use a stubby screwdriver or anything like that. You can get a normal size one in there and gives you that clearance. So in removing the throttle cable, I tried to use a screwdriver on the top of this one right here, and the top just wanted to strip out because this bolt was actually fairly tight. So what I ended up using was a 7 millimeter and a 1/4 inch ratchet. Worked really nicely, snapped it loose. We got everything loose on this throttle cable, and it's time to remove this engine. So now that we have the engine out of the mini bike, it's a lot easier to maneuver and we can kind of move it around on the bench without having that big bike frame in the way. I put the bike frame over behind the Reno because we're going to be cutting off those brackets and painting it, and we're going to be going through the whole process of painting the entire frame. So basically the entire bike is going to be torn down. But for those of you who are just here for the torque converter install, we are going to be continuing on the engine part and showing you guys how to do all that. And basically putting it back together is going to be very similar to the removal process, other than knowing that you're going to have to remove the chain guard bracket and the jack shaft bracket, but that's pretty self-explanatory. So now we're going to get into the box from Go Power Sports and check out what they gave us. So over here, we have everything nicely packaged in bubble wrap. They give you nice bubble wrap envelopes for everything what you need. Just kind of get this stuff out of the packaging. We have our main components in this box. Feels pretty heavy. Just kind of dig a little deeper in the box here. Here we have a muffler. So we're going to be trying it out with the regular header system, and then we're going to install the one with the muffler and kind of show you guys the difference once we get a little further into this bike build. So we got more bubble wrap. They did send us the header pipe as well, so we can cut this one down and install the muffler, so I can put it back to a straight header with the original one that I bought if I want to, but it is fairly loud. I mean, it is nice to be able to get that big, loud, raspy sound that you get out of these little engines, but it'd be nice to see what it's like with a muffler. We're driving around the track, you know, people are always looking at me because I got the thing ripping like crazy, which I gotta say, I don't really mind that, but it's nice to have an option, and we're gonna try it out and see what we think. They're also nice enough to give me some Go Power Sports stickers here, which we will be proudly displaying on the bike because they did sponsor this portion of the build. So another big thanks to them for that. So let's get this box opened up and take a look at our brand new torque converter. Here we go. Oh, I'm seeing a blue cover. That is something I really wasn't expecting. I'm really kind of interested to see how that's gonna look, because we got the blue cover with the red air filter. This is starting to feel like a whole lot of America right here. All right, we got everything unpacked here. We do have our risers for the engine, and when we paint our frame, I'm going to be painting these as well because they are a bare metal. And out here in Pennsylvania, we have a lot of rust. As you can see, this pair of side cutters is very, very rusty just from sitting in the truck. I mean, I try to keep on this stuff, try to keep things oiled down. There's nothing you can really do. Out here, rust is just a reality we have to deal with. So we're going to be painting these up. And with these, all you have to do is just kind of set these on the frame, run your bolts through. That's going to raise up the engine. It's pretty self-explanatory as far as how they work. We do have a very nice black powder-coated back plate for our torque converter setup, and this thing's got some weight to it. You can tell this thing is ready for anything. Very, very high-quality part. And over here we have our nice new blue cover, which is going to look amazing on the bike. And you can tell how much of a difference in height there is from the factory one to our new one, because we got a whole lot more going on here now with our new belt setup and the whole torque converter setup itself. So over here we have our new key, which is going to go in the crank, I believe, and we have a stack of washers and our mounting hardware. So let's get this old system off this engine and get our new stuff installed. So one thing I almost forgot to mention is the silicone protective covering that goes around the header pipe. Now, this comes in a little bit of a longer length than what you need, so you can just cut it to length, whether you're using a muffler or whatever setup you're gonna run on your bike. But I definitely recommend this, because if you don't put this on, you're gonna end up burning your leg, because we learned the hard way pretty well all summer. So I thought I could be sneaky and just slide the clutch and everything off. I mean, I'm sure if you worked at it hard enough, you would be able to get this off this way, but it's just gonna be easier to pull this cotter pin, pull this nut off, and be able to pull the entire assembly off, and then we can get to the mounting bolts that go directly to the engine. So once you get the cotter pin out, you can remove the castle nut. This is a 7/8, so it's pretty simple. Actually wasn't even all that tight, and then you can kind of just work both pulleys, the clutch and the rear pulley, off at the same time. It'll take the chain with it. Just kind of move the tensioner out of the way, and it'll reveal the bolts behind it. So now that we've removed the pulleys and the chain, we can take this backing plate, and the tensioner and everything will go along with it. Just pull these 4 bolts off the engine, and the old system is removed. And just like that, we got all our old stuff removed. Let's get our new stuff installed. Look at that. That is looking so much meaner already. I can tell this bike is going to be an absolute beast. But one thing I did want to mention is the holes that are on the backing plate for these bolts. They are a little bit tight just because of the powder coating that's on here. Kind of made that hole just a tiny bit smaller because they're a very tight fit, probably from when they machined it originally. So all you have to do is just start turning the bolts in, and you'll have no problem at all. It's just at first when I try to put them through, I'm like, are these the right bolts? But they are. They definitely are. All you have to do is just kind of work them into place, and you'll be just fine. So it only took a couple little taps, and we nicely straightened out this heat shield and gave us lots of room for our bolt to line up nicely. And the heat shield is not touching the plastic, so we don't have any issues with heat transfer onto the plastic itself, and we should be all good to go. So after removing the old clutch, I noticed there was a spacer on the crankshaft kind of sitting a little bit further back in here. So you want to remove that one, and then you can put the 7 washers that the kit includes. Then you take your piece of key stock that it comes with and put it in the keyway of the crankshaft. So next we're going to put on the back side of our front pulley, and this piece goes inside, and as you can see there is a keyway on the outside and there's one on the inside. So what you're going to do, there's a little tab on the inside here. We're going to line this up with that, and then we can take these 2 pieces together over to our crankshaft, and we're going to line it up with that one right there. So try to do this one-handedly, and there we go. And the washers that you put in behind are going to give you the proper spacing for this back plate, so then everything is where it needs to be. So now it's time to install the belt, and you're going to notice something about these pulleys is the back pulley is flat on both sides, and then the outer pulley has the chamfer or angle on it, and the same goes for your belt. The flat side of your belt is going to go towards the flat side of the pulley, so towards the engine side, and then the side that has a bit of an angle to it is going to go towards the outside. So next is going to be this piece right here, and there are 2 sides to this as well. There's a flat part and there's one with a little bit of a ridge, and the flat part is going to go towards the engine side. So we're going to line that up with the keyway, slide that into place. Now we are ready for our cone side of the pulley, and obviously that's going to go towards our belt, and we're just going to line that up with this guy here. That's going to go in place. Now our cover is going to go on, and when this cover goes on, it actually kind of goes where that ridge that I pointed out earlier is on this black piece, and now we can get our mounting bolt. You have your Belleville washer, you have your flat washer, and your lock washer, and your bolt. Now we're just going to thread this into the crankshaft and tighten it down. So we've got our bolt installed, nicely tightened down. Everything went in very nicely, all within alignment, and our belt is on. Everything is good to go. All we have to do now is throw on our cover, and when we put this thing back into the bike, we should be ready to go. Well, there you have it, everybody. We have our nice blue cover installed. We got some Go Power Sports stickers installed as well. This looks like an absolute beast now. It's just so much more dimension to what's going on with this engine, and it's come a long way from what it is from the factory. So if you guys wanted to do this at home, as you can see, it was a very, very simple installation. You didn't have to go as far as pulling the engine out, but as you know, as I said before, we are going to be doing the entire frame repaint on this bike. So I figured what not a better time to install the torque converter setup while we did have the engine out and on the bench, and we can give you guys a detailed installation of this product. So again, I just want to say a big thanks to Go Power Sports for sending me this torque converter setup. It looks absolutely amazing. I can't wait to put it back in the bike and try this thing out and see how much torque is delivered through this new system, because it looks absolutely amazing. Looks like a very, very high quality, very well made product. So if you guys are looking for something like this, definitely check out gopowersports.com. I will have a link in the description. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. And if you guys are interested in seeing more videos on this build, definitely stay tuned for those. And as always, keep that hammer down.